Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Can you hear me okay? That's good. So, all of you are very special and in general, but particularly tonight because I wrote a poem for you. I'm not a poet actually, but I had something already set up, so I kind of catered it to you guys, so I hope that you can appreciate it. It's really important for you to pay attention to the symbolism in the poem. It's going to set the basis for our topic. Bobby, can you go outside?
Sorry.
Okay. They all told me where to go, as if I didn't know. Kept hearing, go here, go there, from the sheikh, my parents, brothers over here. But why should I confine myself to their prison? So I chose the life I'd be living. And for a while, everything was all good. But I would soon realize how I misunderstood. Until that day came that I saw a light, like a shining star on a pitch black night. I ran to it, yes I did. With every step it became more splendid. I looked back and I saw a sight to scare. A dark, scary cloud I was in before I was here. I ran closer to that light feeling proud of how I escaped that evil cloud. And only when I knew that I had passed the test did I stop and take a deserved rest. And I knew I could not procrastinate, for if I did, the light would dissipate. More than that there was to fear, for the scary cloud was coming near. And such is my unfortunate tale of how, in keeping the light I found, I did fail. In my sorrow there's one good thing to say, that evil cloud is also gone away. So just to set the stage, if you can kind of help me translate the symbolism in it. So some of the obvious elements, can anybody help me?
You said Zuhair?
Said Zuhair, yes. But that wasn't symbolic. What is the dark cloud? I heard somebody say that.
What's the dark cloud?
The bad past that you had and how you're getting better.
Okay, so bad is what? Which is being lost, right? So it's everything. It's not necessarily disbelief, but just a life of sin or a life away from the right path. So what's the light?
The nur of
the right path, Islam, the truth. So somebody tell me what the journey of this person was. So summarize it for me.
Changing from a person with bad habits to a person with much better reputation and better Islam.
Okay, that's it? Did the story stop there though? Did he just change? So tell me the entire story. Tell me the entire story. Go ahead.
Someone who had a bad past, they basically concept towards the direction and it goes back right back.
Okay, so if what he said is that somebody who had a bad past, came from a bad place, he found Islam, he went towards the light, and then he retracted back, or he kind of somewhere neutral. Actually, that last part's a little bit inaccurate. What I meant in the very end, where he said that he couldn't see the scary cloud. Does anybody know why he couldn't see it? Because he's inside of it again. And so the idea is that when a person is living a life away from the truth, the things that they're doing don't necessarily seem so bad. But when you escape from that and you come closer to the things that are right, and you look back at the things that you were doing, then you realize how bad those things are. A person who might be drinking, for example, doesn't see it as an evil thing. But then you get away from it and you come out of that life and you look back and you look at other people and how can they be putting that poison in their body? And so the journey of this person is that he was in a bad place, he came out of it, he looked back and he recognized now, man, that was the place I was in. But what was the turning point? And this is really the crux of the talk tonight. What's the turning point in his journey? Does anybody remember? I'm going to make you read it again. It was when he decided to take a rest. When he said that, he thought that he'd passed the test, he thought he'd come close enough to the light, so he stopped and he took a rest. and he saw the light fading, and he saw the cloud coming closer, are those things moving in real life? Is Islam changing? No. What was moving is him. He didn't realize that he was the one drifting back, and at the end of it, when he doesn't see the scary cloud anymore, it's because he's fallen back into that place that he originally was. So it's not a very happy story, but it shows, it serves for some symbolism. But what I really wanted to focus on was the turning point. At that point where he decided that he had gone far enough, he was good enough now, he had got enough guidance, he came close enough to Islam, he thought he was safe. He thought he was safe from the cloud. He was enjoying the little bit of light that he had come close to. At that point he decided to rest. So if you can take nothing else, if you take nothing else from my talk today, if you walk away with one single thought, it's this: that in your relationship to your religion, to this way of life, to a life of goodness and truth, you cannot afford to rest. Just that simple thought. You cannot afford to rest. You cannot ever feel like I did enough, I'm good enough, I'm close enough, I'm righteous enough. I don't do those bad things like those people. It's not the thing that you cannot afford to do. In this life of ours that's so precious, you have one chance to make it or lose it. The one thing that you can't afford to do is to rest, is to stop. You can't stop applying effort. You can't stop putting energy towards your own individual growth and development in Islam. All of that together, that idea of putting growth and persevering and being persistent, all of that's this word that Zuhair mentioned, Istiqama. It's when you are steadfast and you persevere in truth and righteousness. So it's a big word. Anybody know of any surah that has a similar word to that? Istiqama. One that we recite every rakah. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Guide us to that straight path that does not waver, that takes us on that steadfast path that leads us to Jannah. To be on that path consistently is to have istiqama. It's really that simple. So the topic is very clear. It's something very basic. In fact, if you're ever listening to a khutbah, you might hear the imam recite a verse, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. What does that mean? وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And don't, it's easy, وَلَا, and don't, تَمُوتُنَّ. What does that mean? What is that supposed to? Die. Don't die unless you're Muslim. I don't think anyone ever accepted Islam for a day. Said, I'm going to try this out for a year, see how it works. I'm going to be Muslim at least when I'm an adult. Any of you ever have the intention to just be a Muslim for a little while? It comes passively, even if you never thought about it. When you decided to submit, when you decided to turn to the religion, and that's who this talk is really geared to. It's about a person who individually started to practice their religion. And many of us, almost all of us, go through that phase. At some point we go from where our parents are telling us to pray and to do good things, where you realize it on your own. It happened to me, it happened to everybody that I know. That after a while, and it's like at this very age group that's here in this audience, at some point in your life you decide that you're going to do this on your own. You wake up on your own for Fajr. You fast voluntarily. You're not doing things just because someone else is telling you. You saw the light and you went to it. And it's at that point where you start to put your effort and your energy. That's when you've decided to submit. When you did that, did you, at that point in your life, that day in your life, you said, I'm going to pray every prayer from now on. Did you say, I'm going to do that for a month, and then I'm going to go back to not praying Fajr anymore? No one ever does that. So what does it mean? What does it tell us when Allah says, and don't die unless you're in a state of submission? What does that tell us? Is that directed to you? Because you don't have that intention. It is absolutely directed to you and me and every one of us. It's a warning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't take it for granted. Just because you're Muslim today, just because you're practicing today, you have no guarantee at all that you will be in that state tomorrow or next year or on your deathbed. You have no guarantee at all. I want to share with you one verse. So I hope you can appreciate the graphic now. This person's trying to hold on, right? This verse is from Surah Al-Ahqaf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Can anybody translate that for me? It's really easy. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ, indeed those who قَالُوا, say, رَبُّنَ اللَّهِ. That's exactly it. Indeed, those who say, my Lord is Allah, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Maybe now you can figure out the meaning of this one. Very close to the word istiqama. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. What does it mean? And they hold on to it. They remain steadfast on that. So it's not enough that you say you're a believer. It's only enough when you remain steadfast and you persevere on it until you die. So indeed those who say, my God is Allah, and then you hold on to that, you live it, you practice it, until the very end, then Allah promises them that, فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. They won't be afraid, وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Neither will they ever be sad. So this is the reward of those who hold on to their deen. So again, this concept is very simple. I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining it. What I'd rather do is enter into a bit of a discussion on how do we do that. If we already agreed that none of us ever had the intention to not hold on, none of us ever expect to leave this religion, all of us think in our mind or assume that I will be in this stage or better when I die. No one hopes that they're more sinful before they die. So if we already agree in the principle of this, the difficult part is, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we hold on? And at least I hope you can appreciate that it's not an easy thing to do. If you just pay attention to people that you know, it's not something you should take for granted. Especially now, it's something so common to a scary extent that you see people who are at one time practicing their religion, and then life goes on and they changed. They became different. And it's something that we really should be afraid of. So the crux of the discussion is, how do we then have istiqama? How do we hold on? So I have a few points. I'm going to say those first, because if I let you talk first, you might steal all my points and then I have nothing to talk about. But after that, I really want to hear from you and share from your own thoughts and experiences and just even your own ideas on how you can hold on to the religion. So I've divided this part into two things. I call it prescriptions and poisons. So prescriptions are the things that you need to do in order to hold on, and poisons are the things that are going to take you away. And so I just have a couple of them. The first one is a prescription. Prescription number one is keep good friends. Very simple idea. I'm sure you've heard this before. But it's so critical. Almost everyone I know, and I say almost, and I really can't think of an exception, to be honest with you. I want to say everyone I know definitely that has come to submitted themselves to Islam, told themselves, I'm going to practice, I'm going to become a good person. Almost, with very few exceptions, of those people have done so by the influence of the people around them. And it's such a common thing. This is something that in the masjid we talk about. This is something that I've heard Sheikh Walid press to here, that the youth will come closer if you create an environment around them. And that's how it works for all of us. I am no exception to that rule. There was a day where I was just like another average person who called themselves Muslim. And I thought I was a good person, but I wasn't doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing. Until I came in contact with a group of people, a youth group at the masjid. And they were also good, decent people. But there was a difference. When the adhan called, they dropped what they were doing and they went to pray. They would read Quran, they would remember Allah. There was a certain level of submission to them, and at that point, I honestly, I felt guilty. How can I call myself a good person, and these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm calling myself Muslim and I'm not? And it was by the influence of those good people that I turned to the religion. It was at that point that I started to do it on my own, for myself. And what's interesting is that the poison is the evil twin of this one, that I'm sure you've also heard mentioned many times. If you want to be taken away, keep bad company. Keep bad company. I see so many young people like yourselves, especially like, I don't know what it is, like 16, 17 is like this magic age where a person starts to think for themselves. And so many young people, if they just have the right influence, they turn to Islam. My Sunday school kids, that's why I love teaching seniors, because I get to witness that transition. But then one of the scariest things for me is when they go off to college, when they move away from home. Because all of a sudden you experience this freedom and you go into an environment that's no longer controlled. Your parents don't have that grip over where you go and who you're around. And you go into this free environment, and sometimes it's a bad consequence if you end up with the wrong crowd. There's one of my students in particular. He was just a fun-loving guy. And he was goofy, and I remember his mom complaining to me that he's not taking life seriously. But then I saw the transition in him when he started to realize his Islam, and he started to submit, and he started to practice, and it was a beautiful thing to witness. And then he went off to school. And in one semester, it changed. Things were different. And he come back, and his mom was an intelligent woman. She brought his butt back home and said, "You're going to your age from now on." And he got his act together, and he's back straight now. And it has everything to do with influence. If you hang around the right people, it'll take you somewhere. If you hang around the wrong people, you will be influenced by them. The next one is keep close to the masjid. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. This is where I discovered my Islam at the masjid, and Allah has guided me to always be close to the masjid. The darkest part of my life since I started practicing Islam was when I started at Rice. At that point, I had gotten a nice little grant so I could afford an apartment on campus. So I decided just for the week, not even the weekend, not even the target, I would come home on the weekend. Just during the week, I would stay on campus. So I moved closer to the university. I was away from home. I didn't know any Muslims. There weren't any masjids really close by. And so for the whole week would go by, and all I had was my studies. And I didn't have good friends around me. I didn't have a masjid around me like I was used to. Even one day I remember I tried to go for Fajr at the main center of Houston. And it was locked. Nobody was there. Nobody lived in that area. And I almost went into a type of depression. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And I realized that I started to think about what changed in my life. And even though I couldn't break my lease, I just kept paying my rent, but the next semester I moved back home. And I got back into my little routine where at least I go to Isha at night. And this is not something that only applies to brothers, by the way. Oftentimes we talk about a man's obligation to go to the masjid. No, sisters, it's just as important for you that if you keep that connection to the masjid, it's like a lifeline. It'll keep you connected. It'll keep you from drifting away too far. So again, the obvious poison is the exact opposite of that. But we just kind of get lost in our pursuit of this world. And it's not only with money, but it's with anything. It's with sports and entertainment, and there's so many other things out there that are distracting you. And most of those things are not even haram. I'm not saying it's haram at all to watch football or basketball, or to go out with your friends, or to go to movies, or to go to work, obviously. But all of those things, the scary thing is even those things are things that we're allowed to do, can be things that distract you to the extent that you lose touch. You lose connection. I know that for sure. When you're working, and all of you, if you're not working, you'll see it soon. When you get a job and you start to work, you want to devote yourself to that job. And for me now, it's even more. I have my own business now. It's even more different when it's your own thing. You're not working for somebody else. And it's a great blessing for me that my office is close to the masjid. And I'm afraid, if it wasn't the case, I could already at work, I'm working away, I'm doing something. I'll be honest, it's hard for me to get up and come to the masjid and take a break. And even Zuhair and I were having lunch the other day, and we were having a discussion. If I'm 1 mile from the masjid, am I obligated to come for every prayer? Sometimes it's a little difficult. And you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's a good thing for me. Even if I'm not from an Islamic point of view, even if it's not haram for me to just pray also in my office. If I hold that as an obligation for me, that's a good thing for me. If I interrupt my schedule, I build my life around that connection to the masjid, then that's something that will keep me from getting too distracted. The last one I have is keep learning, keep growing. And these, it comes in that order. As long as you're continuing to learn and coming to events like this or any other events, you'll grow. You cannot do the opposite, and I'll go ahead and mention it now. Don't be stagnant. And learning and getting knowledge is one of the keys to that growth. If you stop learning, or if you ever get to a point where you feel like, I know enough about Islam, I know enough, I know what I'm supposed to do, if you get to that point, that's a dangerous point. Because at that point, you're going to become stagnant. And stagnation, I brought this picture back up. What happens if that guy stops applying effort? Is he going to hang on there? Not for long. And that's exactly the way our religion is. If you stop growing, if you stop getting closer, then there are forces pulling you down. No one, I have never seen, and this is just my own personal observation, I have never seen somebody get to a station in their Islam and then they stay there for the rest of their life till they die. We fluctuate all the time. And for those unfortunate people that stop trying, they don't even realize it, but they start shrinking backwards. And they stop doing things that they used to do. And they're less interested in things that they used to be interested in. And it's a thing that happens, and it's like that cloud that comes over you again. You don't even know it. You don't even see it coming. And that's how it happens. And again, I want to emphasize that all of the keys to that continuous growth is continuing to learn. Continuing to learn. One of the things that really helped me in the last 10 years was Al-Mawqif. And I'm not just plugging Al-Mawqif, but it's just besides the information that you gain in a course, just the fact that you took out a weekend and dedicated it to learn, there's some type of blessing in that. And when you continue to do that, and you continue to learn, it will keep your Islam fresh. You continue to learn things. And this religion is true. It's true. So the more you learn about it, the more beautiful it seems. I guarantee you that. If any of you ever learn more about the religion and then you come back, I would bet the world on it that none of you would ever come back to me and say, you know what, I learned more about this religion and I like it less now. That is absolutely never the case. This religion is the truth, and the more you learn about it, the more you will fall in love with it. And the more that you'll be inclined to do it. But if you get to that point in life where you think that you know enough, you think that you've done enough, you think that you're working hard enough, I can guarantee you one thing, you're not going to stay at that station forever.